Hello, degenerates. I've been doing a bunch of traveling these days, and my go-to watch for that is the Citizen Skyhawk. Do I really need it for traveling? Probably not. But it is great when dealing with different time zones, and I gotta say, this might be one of the most logically applicable tools for the military, especially for operational planning. The main features here are that it's solar powered, radio controlled, and 200 meters water resistant. It's basically the apex predator of horological functionality. There's nothing more you could ask for without turning into a beta male autistic watch incel. Some other attributes are the bezel is a bidirectional friction slide rule bezel, the crystal is sapphire, lume is applied on the hands and indices, there's a backlight, and everything here is steel. The dial may look intimidating, but it's pretty straightforward. In regular time mode, there are two time zones displayed. One zone is on the main hands, and the other is on the digital display. You can swap these by pulling the crown out to the first position and pressing the top and bottom pushers at the same time. This is handy for people who constantly travel back and forth between coasts. It's also nifty to look at the time the way that best works for you. If you prefer digital, then set your home time to the digital display, or vice versa. To change which time zones are displayed, pull the crown out to the first position and press the upper and lower pushers to cycle through whichever one you need. The 6 o'clock subdial shows which mode you're in. The upper left subdial is going to show you battery charge level and which radio tower the watch is receiving signal from. The upper center subdial will always show you UTC/Zulu Time. And the upper right subdial is 24-hour time, which is slave to the main hour hand. I will admit that for a majority of the population, none of these things are going to matter. But for operational planners, having quick access to Zulu Time and a 24-hour reference is quite useful. A recurring narrative you'll hear about this style from Citizen is that they're too complicated and confusing to use. On the surface, this would seem to be the case, and I agree that it isn't as user-friendly as your standard run-of-the-mill Casio. However, if you would humor me for a second, let me make the case that this watch isn't that complex if you take 10 minutes to read the manual. If you did, you would realize that it's not so different than any other digital watch. On a standard digital, typically there's an adjust button, a mode button, a start and stop button, and then a reset button. 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the button layout on a digital watch. While the Skyhawk doesn't look like it, it operates more or less the same. The mode button, instead of being a button, is pulling the crown out one position. In this position, you can see that the 6 o'clock subdial spins around to change to whichever mode you want to be in. Let's say, for example, the chronograph. Once you get to the chronograph, you push the crown back in, and then the two buttons on the side act as the start, stop, and reset buttons like you'd see on any other digital watch. If you pull the crown out 2 positions, this is the same as if you were to press the adjust button. So in any of the modes, if there's something you can adjust, you would simply pull the crown out to the second position and make whatever changes you needed. Here you can see me in the alarm mode, pulling the crown out to the second position and adjusting the time zone and time that I want my alarm to go off. And by the way, here's what the alarm sounds like. So yes, I'll agree that on a superficial level, the Skyhawk is complex. But if you simply look at the crown as your mode and adjust buttons, and the 2 side ones as the regular start, stop, and reset buttons, then it becomes much easier to navigate. I'm really hoping I've made this watch less overwhelming with this explanation. If not, oh well. Going over each of the modes, Cal brings up the calendar display. If a second time zone isn't necessary, then you can choose to be in this mode instead. Timer and chronograph are self-explanatory. WTS is the world time setting mode where you can manually turn on or off daylight savings times for each zone. You can also turn off any time zone altogether, so you only have to scroll through the zones applicable to you. We've already covered alarms, so let's go ahead and go straight to RxS mode. This is the radio setting mode where you can turn on or off the automatic radio syncing feature. If the auto feature is on, the watch will automatically sync to the nearest radio tower every day at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and 4 a.m. You can manually change the 4 a.m. update to any time during the day if, for whatever reason, 4 a.m. isn't a good time for updates. Radio coverage is pretty good globally, with most of North America, Europe, and Asia being in range. But even in places like Africa, Russia, and South America, it's not a big concern because quartz accuracy is quartz accuracy. You can still manually adjust the time and date, so not being able to auto-sync is not the end of the world. This is a feature-packed watch and there's a lot of autonomy on how to use it, and that's great. All things considered, despite how many things you can do with it, Citizen has managed to present it in the most user-friendly way possible. It doesn't hurt that it's a pretty good-looking watch too. At first I wasn't sure about the polygonal lines, but in the flesh it just looks absolutely sharp as hell. It is a large watch, even on my 8-inch wrist. Here are the dimensions for context. I've never been deterred by a large watch, and in this case the size kind of adds to the futuristic Macross fighter pilot theme and adds to the overall presentation. The fit and finishing are fantastic. Everything feels smooth and sleek just like you'd expect on a performance vehicle, and the pleasing heft of quality immediately projects that it's a serious watch. Objectively, it is a watch designed to perform. There's really not much more I could ask for. In any other timeline where I wasn't a watch-addicted degenerate, this would have been all I needed. At the very least, this watch will serve as another reminder to why Citizen Promasters are pure fucking beasts, and the watches of choice for superior life forms. That's all I got for now. Stay classy. I sure as hell won't.